The sound hit him first. It was not the quiet murmur of a crowd waiting for something to start. It was a storm of noise. A living wall of alien voices that crashed and echoed against steel walls. The air inside the arena vibrated with it, making the floor tremble under his bare feet. Elias Ward stood in the center of a circle of sand and broken stone, his wrists bound in heavy chains. The cuffs were cold, biting into his skin, but he didn't move. He stood still, breathing slowly, letting the noise roll over him. Above him, in tier after tier of seats, thousands of alien faces stared down. Some had sharp beaks, others smooth metal masks, others glowing eyes. Many held banners or glowing signs, showing their champion's name in the curling script of the Zorathian Empire. A single spotlight shone down from the ceiling, blinding him. From one side, he didn't need to see to know the cameras were on him. This fight wasn't just for the people in the seats, it was for the galaxy. Billions would be watching from their homes, stations, and ships. The arena was famous. The Zorathians had made sure to announce it well. A human enters the ring for the first time in the Imperial Colosseum. Come and watch the weak race fall. And they would watch. They would cheer. They would laugh when it was over. A gate clanged open on the far side of the arena. The noise somehow grew louder. A wave of voices chanting one name over and over. Kragtar! 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 From the shadows of the gate, a figure stepped forward. He was huge. Not just tall, but broad, his shoulders like the walls of a fortress. Plates of bone armor covered his chest, arms, and legs, jagged and scarred from old battles. His skin, where it showed between armor plates, was a deep, dark red. His face was a brutal mask of ridges and tusks, his yellow eyes glowing with cruel amusement. In one massive hand, he carried a sword longer than Elias was tall. The crowd roared even louder, the sound like an explosion of thunder. Kragthor raised his sword high and bellowed in his own language, a deep, rolling growl that shook the air. A translator's voice instantly boomed over the arena speakers. A human? This is no fight, it is a mercy killing. The aliens laughed, the sound harsh and sharp. Elias didn't laugh. He didn't flinch. He didn't speak. He kept his eyes on Kragthor's movements, the way the alien's weight shifted, the way his right knee seemed to lock before he took a step, the slight tilt of his head before swinging the blade. The alien champion strode forward until he stood only a few meters away. Up close, the difference in size was even more obvious. Elias's head barely reached the alien's chest. "You are small," Kragthor rumbled, his words again translated for the crowd. "And you are weak. They tell me humans are clever. Show me. Find a way to live for more than 10 seconds. The chains on Elias's wrists rattled as he adjusted his stance. He didn't answer. Somewhere high above, in the Emperor's private box, a figure in gold armor leaned forward to watch. The Emperor loved a good execution, and this would be one to remember. A loud metallic tone rang through the arena. The start signaled. The crowd rose to their feet, shouting. Kragthor moved first. He didn't walk, he charged. For a creature so big, he was fast, crossing the space between them in less than 2 heartbeats. His massive blade came down in a killing arc, meant to split the human in half. The impact shook the ground. Dust exploded into the air. The sound of the strike was like a hammer slamming stone. The crowd screamed in triumph. Then their cheers turned into gasps. The sword had not hit its mark. Elias was gone. Kragthor turned sharply, eyes searching. The human was behind him now, standing in the dust, his chains still hanging loose. From the arena speakers, the translator repeated the words the human had just spoken. "Is that all?" A ripple went through the stands. Some laughed nervously. Others muttered in disbelief. Kragthor growled deep in his throat and turned fully toward him. "You are quick," he admitted, circling now. "But quickness will not save you." Elias said nothing. The champion attacked again, faster this time, his blade a blur of silver. The strikes came heavy and precise, each one aimed to kill. Elias moved like water, stepping aside, ducking low, letting the chain sway but never tangle. He didn't waste energy. He didn't counterattack. From the stands came shouts, "Crush him! Tear him apart!" Cragther's patience thinned. His attacks grew wilder, stronger. Sparks flew when his sword struck the stone floor. Elias kept moving, and then when the alien overextended, Elias struck. It wasn't much a step forward. A twist of his body, the edge of his chain snapping upward. The steel cuff struck Cragther across the jaw with a sharp crack. The alien stumbled, a thin line of blood running from his mouth. The Colosseum froze for half a second. Then chaos erupted. Some cheered. Others shouted in rage. The Emperor's box stayed silent, the golden figure watching closely. Cragther touched the blood with his fingers. He looked at it, then at the human. His voice was low, dangerous. "You will regret that." But Elias just stood there, breathing slow, watching. Fight was only beginning. The crowd's roar was deafening. Some cheered for Cragther, screaming for him to crush the human. Others, far fewer, whispered in disbelief. How could a slave have moved so fast? How could he have struck the champion at all? Cragther's deep, yellow eyes burned with rage. The cut on his jaw was small, but it wasn't the wound that hurt. It was the insult. He had fought for years in the Imperial Colosseum, facing beasts with claws like swords, fighters with weapons of every kind, creatures twice his size and 10 times as heavy. None of them had dared make him bleed this early. None had mocked him, and yet this human stood there as if he had done nothing at all. "You are playing with death," Cragther growled, the translator booming his words across the arena. Elias didn't answer. His eyes followed every twitch of the alien's muscles, every shift of his stance. The champion raised his sword again. This time, there was no taunting. He exploded forward, his feet pounding the sand so hard the ground seemed to shake. The blade came in low, then swept upward in a deadly arc meant to tear the human apart from hip to shoulder. But Elias was already moving. He stepped in, not away, and the blade missed by the smallest margin. His chain whipped forward again, snapping against Cragther's side. It didn't pierce the bone armor, but the sound was sharp, humiliating. Cragther snarled, pivoting his massive frame, swinging again. Elias ducked, the chain dragging in the sand, and rolled out of reach. The crowd's noise changed. It wasn't just cheers now. There were confused voices, curious ones. For the first time, some of them were watching the human instead of their champion. The announcer's voice cut through the chaos. "Viewers across the Empire, what you see is unusual but meaningless. The human is running. He will tire soon. He will die soon." Elias heard the words. He also knew they weren't true. He wasn't running. He was measuring. Cragther kept pressing forward, swinging with relentless speed and force. But with each strike, his breathing grew heavier. Elias noted every mistake, the way the alien's right leg dragged a fraction of a second longer, the slight delay when lifting the sword for a vertical strike, the overcommitment when going for a high swing dot, and then the moment came. Cragther lifted his sword high, ready for a crushing overhead strike. His armor plates shifted, and Elias saw it. The narrow gap just above the champion's knee joint, in the same heartbeat the blade began to fall. Elias stepped in. The chain wrapped once, twice around Cragther's leg. Elias yanked hard and pivoted. The alien roared as his knee bent the wrong way, throwing him off balance. The overhead strike slammed into the sand, missing by a full meter. The crowd gasped. Elias's next move was faster before Cragther could recover. Elias is cuffed. Fists smashed into that gap again, hard. Bone cracked. The alien stumbled back with a snarl of pain. It wasn't enough to cripple him completely, but it was enough to change the fight. From the Emperor's box, the golden armored ruler leaned forward, his glowing eyes narrowing. Interesting. He murmured. Cragther limped once, testing the injured leg. His rage boiled over, his voice a roar that filled the Colosseum. "You dare injure me, little human?" Elias said nothing. He just waited, chains loose in his hands, breathing calm and steady. The champion came again, but now every movement was different, more desperate, more reckless. His sword swings were heavier, wilder. He wanted to end this quickly. That made him predictable. Elias ducked under one swing, sidestepped another, then used the chain to hook Cragther's wrist for just a second, long enough to force the sword wide. His other hand smashed into the alien's ribs, slipping between armor plates. The crowd reacted wildly, some standing, some screaming for blood, others cheering for Elias. Cragther's growl turned into a laugh, though it was strained. "You think you can win? You can only dodge for so long." Finally, Elias spoke. His voice was low, calm, but the translators carried it to every seat. "I don't need long." And then, for the first time, Elias attacked first. He stepped in with a burst of speed, chains whipping. They lashed across Cragther's arm, yanking it down, forcing the alien to defend instead of attack. Elias followed with a blow to the side of the head, then another to the wounded knee. Cragther stumbled. The audience roared, not in laughter this time, but in shock. For the galaxy's billions of viewers, this wasn't a fight anymore, it was a question. Could a human actually win? Cragther's tusked mouth twisted in fury. He launched forward again, this time trying to crush Elias with his sheer size. They collided, Elias barely twisting free, feeling the rush of air as the alien's massive bulk passed him. The human's mind was calm, calculating. He had seen the path to victory now, but victory meant more than just survival. It meant sending a message the entire empire would hear, and he planned to send it in blood. The crowd didn't know it yet. Cragther didn't know it yet. But Elias Ward had just decided this fight would not end in mercy. The sand under Cragther's feet was stained dark where his blood had fallen. It wasn't much, not yet, but for the alien champion, the sight was like a crack in a perfect wall. A wall he had built over years of victory, one fight after another. Never once tasting defeat, he growled, tightening his grip on the sword. His breath came hard, faster than it should. The injury in his knee burned each time he moved, but his pride burned hotter. This was not supposed to happen. This human was supposed to be crushed within seconds, his blood soaking the arena floor. The crowd was supposed to be laughing, not whispering. Across from him, Elias Ward stood loose and calm. His chest rose and fell in slow, even breaths. The chains at his wrists hung relaxed, swaying slightly in the air. There was no sign of fear in his face, no panic in his movements. It was as if he had been here before, as if this alien Colosseum was just another battlefield. Cragther spat onto the sand and began to circle, his steps heavy, his eyes locked on the smaller man. "You think you can outlast me, human?" he snarled, the translator carrying his voice to every corner of the arena. "You cannot run forever." Elias didn't answer. He simply shifted his weight, tracking each of the champion's movements. He was waiting, watching. The crowd's noise had changed again. The mocking laughter was gone. Now there was an edge. To their shouts a mix of anger, disbelief, and something else Elias recognized instantly: excitement. For many of them, this was no longer a show about watching a human die. This was a show about whether the unthinkable could happen. Cragther struck first. The sword came in fast. A horizontal slash meant to cut Elias in half. Elias dropped low, the blade passing just above his head, and swept his chain around in a wide arc. The steel cuffs slammed against the back of Cragther's injured knee. The alien roared in pain and staggered forward. Elias was already moving, stepping in close, his shoulders smashing into Cragther's ribs. It was a small hit, but it forced the larger fighter to turn his back for just a second. For the crowd, it was just a flurry of movement. For Elias, it was control. Cragther turned again, swinging wildly, but Elias was gone from his line of attack. Before the blade even finished its arc, every miss cost the champion more energy. Every step made his breathing heavier. From the Emperor's box above, the golden armored ruler leaned forward, his claws resting on the railing. He had seen Cragther dominate dozens of matches. He had never seen him look this unsettled. Cragther slowed for a moment, his chest rising and falling like a bellows. He tried to hide it, but Elias could see the truth. The alien was tiring, and tired predators made mistakes. The next exchange proved it. Cragther lunged, trying to catch Elias before he could dodge. But Elias sidestepped, guiding the alien's own momentum past him, then twisted the chain around the champion's sword arm. With one hard pull, he yanked the blade off balance. The tip scraped the sand instead of Elias's flesh. The crowd gasped. Elias didn't let the moment pass. He brought both cuffed fists up in a sharp, brutal strike under Cragther's jaw. The alien's head snapped back, tusks clacking together. The sound echoed in the sudden hush of the stands. A moment later, the noise returned louder than before. Some aliens were on their feet now, screaming for their champion to recover, others urging the human on. Cragther stumbled back a few steps, shaking his head. His vision blurred for a heartbeat. In that dizzy moment, a thought struck him like a cold blade. I can't catch him. The realization made his gut twist. It was not something he had ever thought before. He was the hunter, always the hunter. And yet, this human moved through the fight like a shadow, untouchable, forcing him to strike again and again at nothing but air. Rage flared. Enough! Cragther bellowed, raising his sword high. His voice shook the air, and the translator roared his words for all to hear. I will end this now. He charged with all his strength, ignoring the pain in his knee. His sword came down in a killing blow. Elias didn't step back this time. He stepped in. The chain snapped forward, wrapping around the alien's sword arm. Again, but this time Elias used the pull to drive himself upward. His cuffed fists smashed into Cragther's temple, the force turning the alien's head sharply to the side. The sword slipped from Cragther's grasp, clattering to the sand. The Colosseum froze. For a heartbeat, there was no sound. No chanting. No roar of the crowd. Just the soft ring of steel as the sword settled on the ground. Cragther stared at Elias with a mix of disbelief and fury. His massive hands clenched, empty now. Elias didn't move in for the kill. Not yet. He let the silence stretch. Let every alien in the stands drink in the sight of their champion disarmed. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but the translators carried it like a blade through the still air. You've been hunting prey your whole life, Cragther. Now you know what it feels like to be hunted. The crowd erupted, half in rage, half in wild excitement. Cragther roared and lunged barehanded, his claws slashing through the air. But without his sword, his reach was shorter, his strikes easier to read. Elias avoided them with the same fluid movements as before, slipping past each blow and landing his own sharp strikes to the ribs, the jaw, the injured leg. Every hit slowed the champion more. Every dodge showed the crowd that Elias was not simply surviving, he was controlling the fight. And somewhere deep in Cragther's chest, past the fury and the pride, another feeling began to take root. Fear. The blood dripping from Cragther's leg left a thin, uneven trail in the sand. Every step he took left a deeper print than the last, his weight shifting awkwardly as he tried to hide the limp. Elias saw it. He saw everything. The human's breathing was steady, his movements smooth, while the towering alien champion looked as though he had been fighting for hours instead of minutes. The crowd could see it too. The chants of Cragtar, Cragtar, were no longer in perfect rhythm. They were broken now, scattered between shouts, arguments, and even some alien voices calling for the human. Cragthar's tusks were bared in frustration. "Why don't you fight, human?" he bellowed, his voice shaking with rage. Elias's reply came quietly, but the arena's sound system carried it to every seat, every balcony, every camera feed across the galaxy. "I am fighting. You just haven't noticed you've already lost." The words hit harder than any strike. A murmur rolled through the stands. Even the Emperor's golden mask tilted slightly, as if curious to see what would happen next. Cragthar roared and charged. The impact of his feet hitting the ground made the arena floor tremble. His huge frame lunged forward, arms swinging like hammers, claws flashing in the light. Elias moved aside at the last second, the chain in his hands wrapping once around the alien's arm. With a sharp twist, Elias forced Cragthar's momentum forward, sending the giant stumbling past him. The alien caught himself, but not before Elias's cuffed fists smashed into the back of his helmet, cracking the bone plate with a sharp snap. The crowd gasped. Kara Gyutar turned, snarling, but his eyes betrayed something new. Hesitation. Elias closed the distance. He didn't run. He didn't leap. He just stepped forward with the slow, deliberate walk of someone in complete control. The smaller man's shadow fell across the champion, and for the first time, Cragthar took a step back. The alien swung again, but it was too slow. Elias ducked under the strike and slammed his shoulder into Cragthar's chest. The champion staggered. Elias followed instantly, swinging the chain upward, wrapping it around the alien's neck. The crowd exploded into shouts, some cheering wildly, others screaming for the guards to intervene. Cragthar clawed at the chain, muscles straining, but Elias's grip was iron. He yanked once, hard, and the towering champion fell to one knee. The entire arena seemed to stop breathing. Elias stood behind Cragthar, one foot braced against the alien's back, pulling the chain tight. His voice cut through the silence. "Look at them," he said. "Look at your people, watching you kneel to a human." The humiliation burned hotter than the pain in Cragthar's neck. His massive hands reached back, grabbing at Elias, but the human slipped away before the champion could catch him. The alien staggered to his feet, sucking in air, fury twisting his face. He charged again with a roar, swinging with everything he had left. Elias dodged, countered, and struck, each move precise, each blow breaking another piece of armor, another piece of pride. The Emperor's claws gripped the edge of his balcony railing. His glowing eyes didn't blink. Cragthar was no longer fighting to win. He was fighting to survive. And everyone watching knew it. Elias pressed the attack, striking the alien's knee again. Cragthar stumbled and dropped to one leg. Elias's chain whipped across his jaw, snapping his head to the side. The champion's weapon was gone, his armor broken, his strength fading. The crowd's energy shifted completely. Many were on their feet now, screaming not for Cragthar, but for Elias to finish it. The human stood still, breathing slowly, eyes locked on his opponent. He could end it now. One more strike and the champion would fall. But Elias didn't move, not yet. He let the silence stretch, let the entire galaxy lean in to see what would happen next. Cragthar's voice was hoarse when he spoke. "Do it, if you have the courage." Elias tilted his head slightly. His voice was calm. "No, you need to see it. You need to feel every second of it." The chain rattled in his hands. The crowd roared louder than ever. Guards along the arena. Walls shifted nervously, unsure whether to intervene. From the Emperor's box came a single gesture, his clawed hand raised slightly. Holding them back, Elias stepped forward. Cragthar, the undefeated champion of the Imperial Colosseum, the predator feared across dozens of systems, was on his knees, looking up at the human who had broken him, and Elias smiled. The fight wasn't over yet. But for Cragthar, the worst had already begun. The arena had changed. The sand underfoot was littered with shattered armor, broken stone, and the dark stains of blood. The air was heavy with the metallic smell of it. The roar of the crowd had turned into a tense hum, a low vibration that ran across the seats and through the steel walls of the Colosseum. Every eye was fixed on the center, on the human who had defied the galaxy's greatest champion. Cragthar's knees dug shallow grooves in the sand as he struggled to rise. His great chest heaved with exhaustion, his tusks clashing slightly with each breath. The wound on his leg burned with each movement, but it wasn't the pain that weighed him down. It was the shame, the disbelief, the knowledge that he, the undefeated predator of the Imperial Colosseum, was beaten. Elias Ward moved slowly toward him, his chains loose at his wrists, his eyes calm and cold. There was no rage in him, no malice. Only control. Only precision. The crowd's whispering became louder. Some aliens in the stands were shouting for Cragthar to fight, but the tone was uncertain, shaky. Even the Imperial guards along the arena walls looked on nervously, hands twitching near their weapons, but unsure if they could intervene. Elias stopped a few meters away from the towering alien. His gaze never wavered from the champions. He could see the pride, the anger, and finally the fear flickering in Cragthar's glowing yellow eyes. "You've lost," Elias said quietly, his voice carrying across the arena through the translators. "You fought like a predator. You thought you could crush me. You thought I was weak, but this is your end." Cragthar spat blood onto the sand, his claws scraping against the stone floor. You are just a human," he growled, voice hoarse. "I am Cragthar. I am the predator. You cannot defeat me." Elias stepped closer, slow, deliberate, letting the weight of his presence fill the arena. "I already have," he replied, "and now the galaxy knows it." For a heartbeat, the entire Colosseum went silent. Every alien, every camera, every observer across the Empire froze in disbelief. This human, small and weak in the eyes of the galaxy, had taken the greatest warrior of the Zorathian Empire and reduced him to nothing more than a wounded animal. Cragthar tried to rise fully, but his injured leg gave way. He stumbled forward, catching himself with his hands in the sand. Elias seized the moment. With a swift motion, he swung the chain around the alien's shoulders, pulling him down onto his knees. Cragthar's head hit the sand with a dull thud, the sound echoing through the arena. Pain shot through him, but it was nothing compared to the humiliation. The crowd gasped audibly. Some screamed. Others were frozen, unable to comprehend what they had just seen. Elias didn't strike again. He didn't need to. One glance from him, one calm step forward, was enough to convey dominance. The champion, the terror of dozens of worlds, lay defeated before a human. The announcer's voice trembled as he broadcast the moment across the Empire. "Viewers, you are witnessing history. The human. He has disarmed and defeated Cragthar, the champion of the Imperial Colosseum." Shockwaves traveled across the galaxy. Every screen, every news relay, every hidden camera replayed the footage. Aliens whispered in fear, in awe, and in anger. How could one human accomplish what no alien had ever dared dream? Cragthar's hands clenched in the sand. He looked up at Elias with a mixture of fury and disbelief. You are not like the others," he spat. "Humans, you should die here." Elias tilted his head slightly, studying the defeated champion. "No," he said, "I am not like the others. And that is exactly why you lose." The silence stretched. The crowd could feel the tension like a living thing, waiting for the final act. Many expected Elias to strike, to kill the fallen champion. But he didn't. He stood over Cragthar, chains dangling, calm as a stone. Some spectators shouted for blood. Others began murmuring among themselves, a strange excitement building in the alien voices. Some of the enslaved races in the stands Those who had been forced to watch countless battles in fear now whispered of hope. If a human could defeat Kragther, maybe they too could rise. Kragther's breathing was uneven, his pride shattered. His body ached, but worse than that, his mind was reeling. He had been the hunter all his life, the terror of the arena, the champion of the empire. And now he was nothing. A lesson in human strength, discipline, and skill. Elias reached out a hand, not to strike, but to help the giant to his feet. The motion was almost mocking in its simplicity. Kragther looked at it, trembling with rage. Pride and pain warred inside him. "No," Kragther growled. "I do not accept it. I will kill you another day." Elias shook his head slowly. "There won't be another day for you in the arena. Not like this. Remember this, Kragther. Humanity kneels to no one." And with that, he turned and walked toward the exit. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some screamed for Elias to return. Some cheered wildly. Others were silent, still processing the impossible sight. Imperial guards scurried to intercept him, but Elias's calm precision, combined with pre-planned timing, allowed him to vanish from the arena before anyone could stop him. In the Emperor's box, the figure in gold armor leaned back, eyes glowing. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. "Interesting, very interesting. If this human has done this, what else might they be capable of?" The galaxy would soon find out. As Elias stepped onto the transport ship waiting outside the arena, the silence inside the Colosseum lingered. The once proud champion, Kragther, lay in the sand, broken and humiliated. Across the stars, recordings of the fight were being transmitted to dozens of worlds. Aliens whispered in hidden rooms, in back alleys, in command centers. If one human can defeat the champion, what will they do when they all rise? The thought spread like wildfire. Fear, awe, excitement. The galaxy had just seen the rise of a force it had never imagined. And Elias Ward? He looked out at the stars from the ship's deck. His face was calm, eyes steady, but in his mind, he was already planning the next moves. Humanity would not wait. They would not beg. And the galaxy would learn, sooner or later, the true cost of underestimating the human spirit. The ship lifted off, leaving the arena far below. The once roaring crowd now stood in stunned silence. In the stands, whispers spread faster than fire. The human is coming. And somewhere, deep in the Zorathian Empire, the thought echoed across command halls, military stations, and planetary fortresses. We have underestimated them, and we will pay for it. The galaxy would never be the same. The message spread faster than any weapon, across the stars, across systems, across worlds. The news of the impossible victory traveled. Broadcasts, transmissions, and hacked signals carried the images. A single human, small and seemingly fragile, standing over the greatest warrior of the Zorathian Empire. Kragther, the undefeated champion, kneeling in the sand, defeated, humiliated, and powerless. On countless planets, aliens stopped what they were doing. Factories ground to a halt. Military operations paused. Even casual conversations in marketplaces faltered as the footage played on holoscreens. A human defeated Kragther? Whispered one officer on a mining station orbiting Jernek 7. His voice trembled. It can't be. It was true. It had happened. And now, every species that had once sneered at humanity had to reconsider what they thought they knew. The Zorathian Emperor sat in his private chamber aboard the Imperial Spire, his golden armor gleaming in the cold light. His claws tapped rhythmically on the table. The video replayed on the holoscreen again and again. Each time, the human moved with calm precision. Each time, Kragther stumbled, faltered, and fell. "This human is not like the others," the Emperor murmured. His voice was quiet, almost thoughtful. "He is something else entirely." Advisors and generals shifted uneasily around him. Most had been loyal to the emperor for decades, yet no one spoke. Even seasoned strategists, hardened by centuries of conquest, were silent. The images on the screen left them with the same thought. Humanity could no longer be underestimated. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, reports of other humans began surfacing. Small colonies on distant planets told stories of humans surviving impossible attacks, humans dismantling advanced war machines, humans outsmarting entire squads of elite soldiers. On a research station orbiting the planet Viridia 3, a group of xenologists reviewed data from human conflicts with alien pirates. "Look at this," one said, pointing at the statistics. "The survival rate, it's impossible. Their tactics, their efficiency. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." His colleague shook his head, and yet, here they are. Ordinary humans, not genetically engineered, not augmented. Just humans. The fear spread slowly at first, then like wildfire. Across sectors, fleets were ordered to stand down. Patrols hesitated. Ambassadors revised treaties. Even mercenary groups demanded higher pay or refused to engage humans at all. Back on the Zerathian homeworld, military councils convened. Generals argued. How could a single human do what Kragther, the invincible champion, could not? Some argued for retaliation, for a demonstration of raw power. Others feared that doing so would only draw more attention, more humans, more unpredictable responses, whatever they are planning. One high commander said, voice tight with tension, "We are not ready for it." On Earth, Elias Ward did not celebrate. He did not gloat. He stood on the observation deck of a human battleship, watching. The stars stretched endlessly before him. Reports came in from multiple sources, alien fleets pulling back, trading convoys canceling contracts, distant colonies sending urgent warnings to their governments. Humanity had made its mark, and the galaxy had noticed. He let the silence fill. He had fought Kragther, yes. He had shown the galaxy that humans were not weak. But Elias knew this was only the beginning. One victory in a coliseum did not change the balance of power. It only sent a message. Underestimate humanity at your own risk. And many in the galaxy already had. A sudden alarm sounded on the ships. Bridge. Red lights flashed as the communications officer called out, "Sir." Multiple incoming transmissions from unknown sources. They're demanding contact. Elias turned, his eyes narrowing. The sensors showed dozens of ships converging. From multiple sectors, moving with precision, purpose, and speed. Not all were hostile, but some signatures were unmistakable. Warships, dreadnoughts, scouts, unknown civilizations, reacting to the events on Kragther's world. The officer's voice trembled. They want negotiations. They say. They have heard of the human who defeated Kragther. Elias did not answer immediately. He stepped closer to the main viewport and watched the approaching fleets. Their shapes were unfamiliar. Their energy readings were massive. The galaxy was waking up. Humanity's first victory had shattered the illusion of alien superiority. In the Zorathian Empire, the Emperor made a decision. His claws struck the control panel with a sharp snap. "Prepare the Grand Council," he commanded. "If one human can destroy Kragther, then humanity is no longer a threat we can ignore. We must act, gather our best minds, our most lethal forces, everything." But even as he spoke, a ripple of uncertainty passed through his aides. Kragther's defeat had shown them something terrifying. Humanity did not fight like others. They adapted. They learned. They planned. And they did so with a determination that no alien could fully anticipate. Across the stars, small groups of alien observers whispered the same words. If one human, one can do this, what about all of them? The galaxy's greatest empires were no longer confident. Commanders questioned tactics, generals debated strategy, and even the most powerful fleets paused. Fear and respect began to mix in strange, unprecedented ways. Meanwhile, Elias continued to prepare. The humans would not wait for the galaxy to come to them. They would act, and they would decide the terms of the future. He looked at the approaching fleet, then at the stars beyond. "Let them come," he said quietly. His voice was calm, almost serene, yet carrying the weight of command. "Let them see what humanity is willing to do." The ships in the distance slowed as they entered the system's gravity well. Alien commanders communicated rapidly, unsure if this human was alone, or if he represented something greater. The broadcast of Kroger's defeat had already spread too far. Across the galaxy, intelligence networks buzzed with reports. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and unstoppable when underestimated. In the Empire's Grand Council chambers, holographic projections of human worlds appeared. Strategies were debated feverishly. Some council members argued for immediate attacks. Others argued for caution. Every decision was shadowed by one undeniable truth. The humans were no longer weak. The news spread further, faster, reaching independent star systems, colonies, mercenary guilds, and pirate bands. Rumors of Elias Ward, the human who had defeated Kragther, became legend in mere hours. The phrase repeated across holoscreens and datanets, the human who conquered the unconquerable. Back aboard the human battleship, Elias gave the order to prepare defensive formations and monitor incoming fleets. His mind was already calculating possibilities, preparing for negotiations, for skirmishes, for the next inevitable confrontation. Humanity's mark had been made, but the galaxy would not wait quietly. Sensors detected anomalies. Ships from unknown civilizations were entering the sector faster than anything previously recorded. Scouts relayed reports of massive energy signatures, weaponized. Fleets on alert. The galaxy was reacting, fearful, awed, ready. Elias Ward's eyes scanned the stars. He clenched his fists lightly, not in anger, but in resolve. Humanity had begun its rise. One victory had started a ripple across light years. One human had shattered a champion and reminded the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. And yet Elias knew the true challenge had only begun. Across the stars, countless species were preparing. Some would come with diplomacy. Others would come with fleets of war. The galaxy was waking up to humanity. And it was terrified. As the first unknown fleet reached the outer edges of human-controlled space, their leaders transmitted a single message. Broadcast in multiple languages, in every known dialect, "We have seen what one human can do, and we come to see the rest." Elias Ward watched from the bridge, calm as ever, eyes focused, mind sharp. Humanity had won its first battle. But the galaxy had begun its reckoning. The stars themselves seemed to pulse with anticipation. And in the silence before the coming storm, one truth was undeniable. Humanity would no longer be underestimated. The galaxy would soon learn that humans did not just survive. Humans conquered.